So, Yusuf, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm really happy to have you on the show. And I know we've been trying to schedule this for some time, so thank you for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. And so let's get started. For some people, they're already familiar with you if they came to our back to school event, or if they've been following us on social media, or they follow you on social media, they know already probably a little bit about you. But while I read your bio, why don't you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis story and how long you've been living with type 1 diabetes?
Okay, sure. So I'm 16 now, and I got diabetes around when I was around 13, around the time of my birthday, actually. So it's been almost 3 years. It's like 2 years and a half, you could say.
Mhm.
So those 2 years I've learned a lot actually with the condition, but every day I feel like I'm still learning something very new with the condition. There's some people who've had it for 9 years, and even they're still learning. I started racing back January this year, so that was the only hobby I had really taken up with the diabetes since.
And when you were diagnosed, were you like just knew something was off, or was it one of those cases where you had gotten quite sick and were in DKA? Because we know that happens a lot with people. Um, or how did you find or figure out that, you needed to go to the doctor and get medical attention?
So I was actually on holiday at the time. I was in Ireland, and I was gulping down tons of water. And I had lost 10 kgs in weight actually, which was like out of nowhere in a short
Wow.
period of time. So my mom was like, "Okay, this is very off. Yusuf, let's go to the doctor." So first we went to a clinic when we got back to Dubai, and the doctor there, he was like, "Okay, I think I have a theory on what it might be." So he got his glucometer and he checked it, and on the reader, he got 400, and he was almost hesitant. He was like, "Okay, so I can't give you what it is because I'm not certified to tell you, but I think he has type 1 diabetes." And at the time, with 400, when we did our research, we were like, "This is almost definite." So we went to the hospital the same night, and we got there, and the reading was HI. It wasn't even coming up on the glucometer because I'd
Mhm.
just eaten, and obviously without insulin,
Yep.
it's very high. So we got there, and they said, "Okay, you need to be on insulin now." And all of this was very new to us. So we were like, "What's insulin?" And they were like, "This is going to replace your pancreas because your pancreas isn't producing any insulin anymore." So I was in hospital for 5 days, learning how to use long acting, short acting. I was on the glucometer for a period of time, and then eventually my doctor said, "Okay, let's just swap you over to the Freestyle Libre for your convenience, and it's just easier in general." And since I stuck with the same hospital, Ashley, I see my doctor regularly. Every 3 months, I check up for my ketones, how I'm getting on with everything, like my time in range. Lately, it actually hasn't been very good, but that's been due to weather. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing that from a lot of parents, like whether back to school timings, even though it's October, but still your every little thing seems to affect your body. So first of all, kudos to that doctor that said, I think this might be type 1, because oftentimes people don't think of that. So I'm really happy. I mean, of course, not happy to hear about your diagnosis, but that
Yeah, I get
the
what you mean.
first
Yeah.
doctor you saw suspected it might be type 1. So that's really good, because I think that saved a lot of challenges and grief and unnecessary damage to your body. So then, did you start racing before or after your diagnosis?
So it was after, actually a good bit after. It was almost, I didn't pick up any sports or anything at all really during my first year because it was so difficult. Like, I mean, I was so underweight. I was like 50 kg. And at that age, you can't really do football. You can't really do a lot of these competitive sports. Like, I was literally like a stick. So eventually, just the beginning of this year in January, I had decided, okay, I want to take up something. So I went to my local karting track, being Kart Rome, and I just said, okay, let me give it a go. I had done it a little bit when I was younger, but it was never a competitive basis. So I decided, okay, I want to try this sport competitively now. And I got into it, I started liking it. And then throughout this year, I got to a certain point where it was just like, okay, till when I was in February, I joined a team. I started getting more used to it. I eventually bought my own go-kart and just kind of adjusting to the diabetes with racing. Like the first few weeks, I was like, okay, this raises my blood sugar. This is when I need to come in to check my blood sugar. I should have this meal before racing. So it was kind of also an experiment in the beginning, but I'm glad I've got pretty used to it now.
Very good. Yeah, and when you talk about your weight loss, because I've seen you in person before, and I can't imagine you because you're quite tall, and I'm sure with that much weight loss, that must have been really challenging, and probably you felt kind of low energy till you gained it back. So, and then so racing, you said was always something like you just kind of did from time to time. And what made you consider to start racing now? Was there something that kind of triggered that interest or piqued the interest, I should say, or was it just always in the back of your mind?
I think, it was always something I kind of had a bit of a passion for when I was younger. Like I would love to go to the go-kart track, but it was kind of something that I'll be honest, it wasn't something I was thinking of taking up competitively at the time. It was always something I had thought of, but I never thought I'd go into a competitive basis with it. And the time I did start going more frequently, I kind of began to like it a lot, and I decided, okay, you know what? This is the sport that I want to do, and that's for me. And I think that I'm good at the sport. Like I was pretty good in my first week or so. There's people saying your lap timings aren't bad at all. You should consider it competitively. So from there on, I then decided, okay, I'll just take it up as my competitive sport.
Amazing. And so then I'm sure people are curious, and I'm not sure if there are any um, car racers with type 1 diabetes that are known to the public that we should be aware of. And because I've never met anyone before you that is racing cars with type 1. So how does that work? How are you managing it? How are you checking? How take us through that because that can't be easy.
So there was one person, but this was ages ago. This was back in the 1970s, I believe. There's one. He had a really short career in the sport, not anyone myself. But regarding how I manage it, what I'll do before a race, say for example, I have a race upcoming. Some of my races are at night, some of them are in the morning. But let's say, for example, I have one in the morning. I'll get up really early. I'll stick to a protein only diet strictly because for the rest of the day, I don't need to have high blood sugar in the heat, especially under the sun. If you're under high blood sugar, it's so difficult to stay hydrated and actually bring your blood sugar down. You're battling blood sugar more than you're actually focusing on the race. So I'll have a
Mm,
protein only meal. I'll go out for the day. I'll take an electrolyte in my water because it's so dehydrating. The heat alone could raise your blood sugar. You could go out with 90, you could come in from a session and it could be at like 200 just from being dehydrated. So in that aspect, it's pretty difficult. And also the adrenaline of the sport can also make it difficult. Like it's a very kind of long sport where people are excited, obviously, right, when they're driving. So
right.
that help with your blood sugar either. It gives it a short burst where it goes high, or sometimes it's the opposite where maybe it goes low from just being tired or you didn't eat enough during the day and you were in the cart for too long.
Wow. So you have a protein before, and then the races typically, how long do they last?
Well, each
Or it
race, so the
depends.
whole day, each race is different, but let's go off of the season basis. The races in the season, they can go up to 8 hour long races, but we're
Wow.
not in the cart for the whole 8 hours. We do have breaks in between, but from the time you're on track doing your track walk, we do a walk around the track, till the time that you're analyzing your data, till podium, it's about an 8 hour long day from morning until let's say 6 p.m. at least. So it is a pretty long day. We're in the cart for about mm, 20 minutes at a time. There's sometimes on an average about 15 turns on the track, and each turn, I believe, you have to turn 30 kg. I think they say throughout an entire race, a driver will actually have to turn 5 tons throughout the entire day. That's what would have they done weight.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. I mean, and really, and like you said, sometimes it's high because of adrenaline, and I'm sure you have to be really quick and be thinking all the time and thinking what's coming next and what you're doing, and that also requires a lot of glucose and brain power. That's amazing. So then when you're having like when you're between races, then are you focusing on eating anything or you're just drinking and staying hydrated throughout?
I'll be honest, I find it pretty difficult to eat, and this is another one of the challenges is the when you eat, obviously you go up a little bit on the scales, and weight plays a big role in racing. When we
Mm-hmm.
come in actually from a race, we weigh our carts, and we can't even be remotely under. If we're even slightly under, we're disqualified.
Mm,
So what we have to do is if you don't drink enough water or don't eat enough and you start going underweight, you're going to be in a bad situation. I don't like to eat that much. I feel like I can't actually have that much food. I also feel
mm-hmm.
like then my blood sugar will also be pretty high. Like you need to have carbs, but I don't like to eat too much. So I just prefer staying mainly hydrated, uh,
Mm-hmm.
have a few snacks in between, but mainly just hydrated for the having a good breakfast and then hydrated throughout the day
For
is
the
usually what I.
day. Yeah, great. And you're probably eating really good the day before a race, I
Yeah, you
assume
would
too.
want to maintain the weight. It's mainly the
Right.
water weight we're losing. Sometimes just like maybe a smoothie, toast and eggs, but nothing
Mm-hmm.
too heavy really. It wouldn't
Yeah.
drive with that type of food around in your stomach. It's not like,
Yeah,
it's
you
not the
wouldn't feel
best.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would probably feel very uncomfortable, I imagine. And
Yeah.
is it very I mean you're getting dehydrated, but is it very hot in the car as well?
So yeah, this is actually something that a lot of people don't talk about is the engines themselves are right next to us. They're literally in these carts, they're beside us. So they're giving off lots of heat. Behind us, we
Mm,
have the exhaust right behind our backs. So those two alone are already giving off lots of heat. On top of all the gear you're wearing, all this gear, so we wear a protective layer under the suit. We call it a rib protector. That already is really warm. Then we wear the suit, the helmet, all that gear under the heat for at least 20 minutes, it's extremely hot. And even with the breeze, say for example when you're driving, it's doesn't really help much.
yeah, and I can imagine in a place like the UAE where it's hot, it's really gonna be pretty warm.
Yeah, it is, especially under that gear. Like the helmets, sometimes we bring them in and it's like they're just so soaked. Even the visor fogs up sometimes. What we have to do is sometimes when we go out for a session, we try to keep our visors just a tad bit open,
Mm-hmm.
not fully open, but a little bit to leave the humidity kind of get out.
Yeah.
So that helps with visibility.
So racing is challenging enough without diabetes. And how are you managing this with school and everything else that you have going on in your life?
See,
Because
that
between
adds
school and racing, yeah, how does that work?
another challenge into it because a lot of racers are actually school students. There's a good amount of racers that are still very young, so it is difficult, but there has been 1 or 2 days of school where I've had to go in late because the day before I had a race, and you get home so tired that you need that little bit of sleep in the morning. Or there's sometimes where races are even on school days, so it is very difficult. But what I try to do is I try to manage the school in a way where I'll do the assignments early if I can, so they're done and ready before the race weekend. So to try and organize everything before the race weekend is usually what I try to do.
Yeah, that could be tricky for sure. And I saw in your social media, so you won a race last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, thankfully, the first race of the season in senior 170, in the final race, I managed to get first place. It was a 21 lap race around the rack track in Ras Al Khaimah, so it was a great start to the season.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
And we will share your race schedule. We'll have it in the show notes. We'll put that picture there because you do have quite a few races in Ras Al Khaimah and also some in one in Dubai that's coming up as well. Um, and hopefully we'll be able to come watch one of those, and maybe some other people in the diabetes community or in Dubai should come watch as well. Amazing. So how then, because still relatively new diagnosis, 2.5 years, how do you find managing diabetes at school? Has that been challenging?
So in the first year of it, it was very challenging. Like, there's not enough awareness within the schools, like with phones. They don't understand that my phone is connected to sensor. So they're like, give me your phone. I'm like, no, I need to use this to check my blood sugar. And you have to explain this to every single one of them so they understand. They need to understand that sometimes I have to bring a snack into class because maybe I've had low blood sugar, or a juice into class. So it is very difficult, and I don't feel a lot of schools understand it. Like maybe the clinic does, but sometimes the clinic doesn't have all the outreach to every single teacher in the school. So if you have a substitute teacher that doesn't know you, or some teachers that just aren't aware of the condition, it can be a bit tricky. But thankfully, I'm getting more accustomed with it. The school knows me now; they already know the condition, so it does get better. But I think there needs to be more awareness in the UAE in schools in general.
Yeah, I think not just in the UAE in schools, I think globally it's a challenge. I see people from different countries all over the world talking about this. And now with the big push to, and I understand why they don't want mobile phones by the masses in a lot of schools, but for children with type 1 diabetes, that app that connects to your CGM is essentially it's a medical device and it's life-saving and can actually help you focus more on your schoolwork and everything, not having it. Then my son was diagnosed before CGMs. He has one now, but in those days, he'd always have to interrupt his schoolwork and go to the health office and go get his blood sugar checked. And then so much time was lost in doing that that I think you're right. If more schools were aware of the uses of mobile phones for people with type 1 diabetes and just have more awareness in general, the world would be a much, much better place. In social situations, how do you find that? Because also at your age, it can be tricky. Now, I mean, at any age, navigating diabetes is tricky. But how did you find it socially, being type 1, and did you have any challenges with that? I'm sure your friends are probably really cool and supportive.
So actually, in my first year, I actually made a friend because of type 1 diabetes. I was in
Oh,
clinic,
cool.
and I wouldn't usually be in clinic, but because of having type 1 diabetes, I was there often. And I met another type 1 diabetic. So we would sit with each other and have our lunch, and he was teaching me. He's had it for 9 years now, actually. So he's well accustomed with it. He's actually younger than me, but he understands
Wow.
it very well. So he would teach me about the sensors, teach me how many units, and explaining his experience to me so I would also understand. And eventually, my other friends who were non diabetic, when we would go out, I told them, okay, this is my mom's number. If you ever need to call her, please just call her. Let her know that, Yusuf has low blood sugar or high blood sugar in like an emergency situation. And they also understand that I can't always eat the foods they want to eat. Let's go get a milkshake now. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, no, we've just ate there. We won't be able to go over there and have a milkshake. So my friends have been very supportive and they understand the condition pretty well. I taught them about the insulin for when it has to be brought down. They know when it's low. Sometimes they remind me to check it. Yusuf, maybe you need to check your blood sugar or something, and they'll help me get juice or something.
Oh, that's really nice. I'm glad to hear they're supportive. And I love that you made a friend because of type 1. I love the type 1 community. They're so supportive of each other. And if mom to mom, we always have that instant connection with other moms. And I'm sure people with diabetes, they always have a connection and they learn from each other and have lived experiences and shared experience. I think that's really cool that you met someone in the health office with type 1. So, looking ahead in the future, what do you want to do after you finish your school?
So this is a question I get a lot. Sometimes I actually don't know, like job wise, but my goal would be really to get into being a GT3 factory driver one day, hopefully, and race abroad. Uh, Job wise, I've always liked the idea of working in the police. That's always been some sort of job I have liked since a young age. But really, that would be one of my goals, like as a side thing, as a side career with my normal
Hmm.
job, it would be GT3 racing across the world.
Nice. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it sounds like you're already doing everything right to get there and
Yes.
that's amazing.
Karting is kind of like that stepping stone, I suppose, up to GT. It's just a big kind of gap once you leave karting to get to GT, but
Hmm.
it's a work in progress.
Yeah. It's a wonderful goal, and I love that you're not letting diabetes stop you from thinking to do that. I don't think a lot of people with diabetes would think that people, it could be a relative or even an uninformed doctor telling them, no, you shouldn't do it. But I love that you want to follow that dream, and I think that's really wonderful. So, anything else that we should know about driving with type 1 diabetes? I think even if you're not racing a car and you're driving a car, there's probably a lot of things that we could learn from you. I'm sure you check your blood sugar every time you get in the car? Yes, before you drive.
Yeah, it would be usually the case before you go out or before you when you come in immediately you check it. When you go out and obviously when you have those in between snacks or you
Hmm.
had to eat something because it's a long day in between, you'd really want to monitor it then, or that it's not going low because sometimes rarely it can go very low, and it's always important to keep a good eye on that. And my phone isn't always near me, so my mom will keep the phone with her and she will
Ah, okay.
hit and check my blood sugar for me before I go out. So my
Okay.
mom is very supportive of that and very helpful in the pit to lane with me sometimes.
Amazing. What's your favorite snack?
Well, for racing, in between racing, I would say just like a cheese sandwich, something light and just easy, to digest. Yeah, a cheese sandwich or a smoothie, protein shake, things like that that are easy to have before a race. I prefer to, but outside of racing, I would usually say, well, soups. I like a lot of soup. Vegetable soup, lentil soup, things like that. I love protein, steak, salmon and rice, those types of meals.
Hmm. You sound very healthy. I love it. I just made a big soup actually earlier this week. I love a good soup. We'll have to exchange some soup recipes. All right, or if you have any good snack recipes or soup recipes you want to share, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Yusuf, thank you so much for joining us and sharing some of your experience. Like I said, we will put your race schedule in the show notes so people can go out and watch you race. And all the best of luck to you with the rest of the season and for what's to come.
Thanks so much, and thanks so much for having me on your podcast today. It was great, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.